In the center of a busy city where ambition frequently concealed deeper motives, a story of passion and danger played out. Jim Jones was a powerful and charming man whose name was heard all over the streets, but beneath his charms was a web of power and dishonesty. Brooke Bailey, a rising star in the fashion business, was renowned for her bold style and unwavering work ethic. Removed, everything changed for her when she met Jim. She was first captivated by his strength and confidence, and as their connection progressed, they were pulled into a fast-paced romance that promised excitement and passion. She was successful in landing the high-profile runway appearances and contracts she desired. Brooke fell in love with Jim's lifestyle after he took her to glittery parties. Private parties and influential circles, she felt alive and delighted by the attention and the opportunities. But as time passed, the glamour started to fade, and the darker realities of Jim's attraction became apparent. Brooke would eventually feel trapped and helpless as his fervent outbursts turned into jealousy and rage. One awful evening, Jim's son finally entered the picture. He had been raised in the midst of his family's turmoil, a young man enmeshed in the upheaval of his father's lineage, and the allure of power had shaped his formative years. Because she believed that love could make everything right, she found herself excusing his behavior, but she could sense a growing unease, a sign that something was extremely wrong. When Brooke and Jim got into a particularly heated argument, the son discovered her alone in a remote corner of a lavish celebration. The desperation in his voice made him demand that she leave him. He had also seen the destructive might of the son in those around it. Filled with a mixture of fear and resolve, "I've seen it happen before. If you don't, he will ruin your life. He has the ability to devastate people's emotions and thoughts, making them feel undeserving." His words caused Brooke's heart to accelerate, sending a shiver down her spine. Her vulnerability was exposed by the candor in his eyes, which belied her bravery. She had dismissed them. She believed she could control Jim's erratic behavior based on signs of danger. But suddenly, the seriousness of his son's warning hung over her like a black cloud, requiring her attention. Every hour Brooke spent with Jim seemed more onerous as the days stretched into weeks and she struggled with her choice. She started to feel as though she was being forced to live a life she no longer wanted by the glitz and glitter she had once enjoyed. She was overcome with more familiar recollections of Jim's manipulation of her schedule, his estrangement from her friends, and his use of love-passing lies. Each reminiscence weakened her determination, despite her internal struggle. The longer Brooke clung to Jim, the more she attempted to convince herself that she could change him and that love would be sufficient to mend the rifts in their relationship. That hope increased as she sensed the walls closing in on her, and the son's warning reverberated constantly, forcing her to face reality she had long disregarded. Brooke broke down when she saw Jim charmed and enthrall everyone with his smile at an especially opulent dinner filled with clinking glasses and laughter. However, when their eyes locked, she shuddered because she felt caught between the man she believed to be her love interest and the oppressive reality. She took a deep breath. When Brooke visited Jim in his office the following day, she decided to confront him because she was no longer willing to trust the threats that hung over her. Unspoken remarks created a tense mood. Unsteady but persistent, "I'm done with this. It's control," and the fight was fierce. When he saw she was serious, Jim became furious and used insults and threats to try to get back in control of her. However, Brooks kept her own, supported by the insight she had received from her own experiences with his kid, and she was able to recognize the reality. The power he possessed was now. With the weight off her shoulders and Jim's weaknesses concealed beneath the mask, she left him and his world. Brooke was ready to write her own story and was no longer a prisoner of someone else's scheme. After realizing her newfound strength, she remained determined and gave her all to her work in spite of the danger. Brooke's story evolved into one of empowerment and a reminder that, even in the most trying situations, the light of self-discovery may shine through the shadows, and that, even in the darkest places, there is the strength to rise and break free. Despite the challenges she faced, Each step she took deepened her belief that love should uplift rather than ensnare. It shines brighter. In the center of a busy city where ambition often conceals deeper motives, a story of love and danger played out, illuminating the way to a future shaped by her own decisions. Jim Jones was a powerful and charming man whose name was heard all over the streets, but beneath his charms was a web of power and dishonesty. Bailey, Brooke, was a fashion industry rising star who gained notoriety for her bold appearance and unwavering resolve. Obtaining the well-known runway appearances and the contracts she wanted, but meeting Jim changed her life. His strength and confidence initially drew her into a fast-paced romance that promised passion and excitement as their relationship developed. Drew nearer, Brooke fell in love with Jim's way of life after he introduced her to his lavish parties, exclusive gatherings, and powerful circles. She was thrilled about the attention and the chance, but as time passed, the glamour started to fade and the darker realities that fueled Jim's erratic rage became apparent. She frequently found herself defending his actions because she thought that love could improve everything, but she was quietly growing uneasy and feeling like something was seriously amiss. Then, one fateful evening, Jim's child entered the picture, a young man caught up in the turmoil of his dad's legacy. His early years had been molded by the temptation of power, but he had also seen the terrible toll it had on those around them. He was aware of the evil that lay beneath Jim's endearing grin, and the sun seemed heavy with wisdom. After a particularly heated argument between Brooke and Jim, the son discovered her by herself. "That has happened to me previously. He has the power to break people's emotional and mental ties and will make you feel unimportant. You need to leave him." In a quiet corner of an opulent gathering, he spoke in a faltering voice. His eyes were filled with a mix of resolution and fear. His words made Brooke's heart accelerate and sent a chill down her spine. Now, like a heavy cloud, the meaning of his son's warning hung over her, clamoring for her attention. She believed she could manage Jim's erratic behavior, so she had dismissed the whispers of danger. His genuine eyes cut through her conceit and exposed the vulnerability of her circumstances. Weeks passed while Brooke considered her options, and every second she spent with Jim felt more suffocating the glamour she had once adored. It started to feel like chains tying her to a life she no longer knew. Memories of Jim managing her schedule, breaking off her friendships, and dominating her under the pretense of love consumed her. Despite Brooke's best attempts to convince herself, every memory made her less resolute. Could convince Jim that love alone could heal their relationship's issues, but the longer she held on to that hope, the more she felt the walls closing in around her. The son's warning was a continual reminder to her of the truth she had long disregarded. Brooke ultimately found her at a particularly extravagant party, where there was clinking glasses and laughter. The tipping point, Jim's smile captivated everyone in the room as she watched him, but when their eyes locked, she felt caught between the man notion she cherished, along with the fact that was holding her in place.